Sign on the street says you don't own me. Sign on the porch says three's a crowd.
Well, Girl from the North Country is set in 1934 in Minnesota. It's a time of great hardship for people, and the story takes place in a guest house where there's a family who run that guest house, and then there's all these people who are drifting through the rooms looking for somewhere to exist while they figure out their next move. And so we tell the story of all these people's lives over a period of about a week around Thanksgiving in 1934.
May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you.
I had an idea that perhaps there was something very spiritual and mystical about Bob Dylan's songs, which tied in perhaps with my Catholic upbringing. And I guess I saw it almost like stories from the Bible. It was like parables that were happening with these kind of hymns that Bob Dylan was providing. So allowing the music to just come in and create the atmosphere and the inner life of characters too.
You're the one I've been looking for. You're the one that's got the key.
Pairing up songs with characters or elements of story was something which was pretty instinctive, because Bob's songs tend not to be that literal. The most literal instance in the show would be where the character of Joe Scott, who's a boxer looking for a comeback and who has been accused of something he didn't do, he sings Hurricane, which is pretty much right on the money in terms of people who would know that song and what it's about. And that was probably one of my earliest ideas, and it stayed right through the process. Yes, working with Simon Hale, our musical arranger, was a wonderful pleasure. Simon's musical facility is really vast, and he's very talented.
He wrote the script and the play, of course, and chose where the songs would happen. And then I would help him create tone and colour of how the music is portrayed. So that for me, that was a lot to think about. Where is the play set? What is the mood of the music? What is the tone of the world? And all those kind of things. So the music sound is representative of that period in America.
Sometimes I feel so low down and disgusted, I can't help but wonder.
So with some of the songs, we just sort of think, how can we do this differently? What can we do that's suiting the lyric, that perhaps not even the entire lyric, and just to do with the play.
Would you like some breakfast?
Look what's under the Christmas tree.
I see it.
We don't have songs that end with a big button for applause, for example, which is a fairly common thing in musicals. Not all the time, of course, but we don't ever do that. It's always bang, straight into the next scene, straight into the next scene. So the music is used more like a play or like a film in a funny kind of way.
It was such a joy bringing the 1930s to life in the bodies of the characters.
One of the great things that Lucy was able to bring to the mix was that she was very alive to the way normal people move in everyday life and the way our performers move in their everyday lives, and to incorporate that into the piece as opposed to trying to get everybody locked into some uniform way of movement.
How are you, Marianne?
We firstly started with the sensibility of the time. We talked about etiquette, we talked about the way the clothes would fit, we talked about the contrast of living in a time where people had very little, especially these characters, and how the exhaustion and the pressure and the sadness of the time would have sat in a weight in their bodies. We also talked and learnt all of the 1930s dances of the time. So we learnt foxtrotting and waltzing, as well as some of the hangover dances from the 20s, like the animal dances and the Charleston.
And this was their way of socially interacting, but at the same time they would be themselves doing that. So that's a really nice language of movement in the show, which brings a kind of poetry of everyday life to the way people move.
It's a type of show that, even though it's a musical, it's kind of got its own rules. And the conventions of musical theatre are quite different in this show, but they're always incredibly truthful, and they're always about driving the story forward.
Well, the pressure's down. The boss ain't here. He went naughty, ain't around.
I think the way that we tell the story in Girl from the North Country, I think it leaves a lot of room for interpretation, and it allows the audience to come through it and see it through their own eyes and decide for themselves what's important in all of these stories.
It's full of love and passion and intrigue, but it's incredibly uplifting, it's incredibly hopeful. And also it's got this incredible soundtrack running through it that just connects directly to our heart. And this beautiful balance of Connor's writing and Bob Dylan's music, you just couldn't hope for a better pairing. And this play drives straight to the heart of what is important in the world, what matters. And that, right now, I can't think of anything more relevant for people to see.
Joker man dance to the nightingale tune, bird fly